Outer Orange.
Sia, OuterOrange here, and I'm back with another profile. Yes, and it's a Bastion profile. That's crazy. I know I've never ever talked about Bastion aside from, meta analysis. I never really cared about Bastion. It's always been one of those decks where I was just constantly figuring out how to beat it early on, more so than playing it. Just wasn't really a fan of it. But now we got the new Bastion Accord. I really like the effect on it, and I actually built the deck. So I will say this one's a bit more budget friendly and definitely more on the casual side. I don't want to like put heaps and heaps of money into a deck that I probably won't be playing as much, but I just have it as kind of like a backup deck because of the resist that this card gives. Overjust really struggles when your opponent can constantly board wipe, and it's one of the few cards that says I don't care, and that's what I like about it. So I built the deck basically. Keep in mind this was without the aloe, so we don't have the aloe. Obviously we're getting it next set, so another reason why this is kind of a fun deck I thought I would showcase, because since we don't have the aloe, there isn't actually that many lists out there that are aloe lists. But here we go. I'm providing you a list without the aloe. It's probably not the best list out there, but hey, it's I think it works. I think it's still good. I think it's still fun. I think it's still great to play. So let's go ahead and get started. For the sleeves, we got the UU sleeves for the ride deck, and then we have the ALK sleeves for the main deck. For the deck box, we are using one of these. This is the Garbage Truck Girl from the Melody cards. So this is what we're using for the deck box. And then let's go ahead and get started with the ride one. Shout out to 50 cards for helping me get these cards as well. Code Orange if you need your goodies. 50cards.shop for all that good stuff, because I got a lot of it from him and a friend of mine who actually recently stopped playing Bastion, so he gave me some cards too. So thank you so much. But anyway, so the 0 doesn't matter. It could be whatever you want to be. Using the mage one because that's what I was given. That's what I'm rolling with. Next we have the 1. When he's ruled upon, he gets an effect, so you can reveal 2 grade 3s from hand and reveal the top card of your deck, and you call it to the rear guard circle if it's a unit. If it's not a unit, you put it at the drop otherwise. So basically anything that is in order for the most part will just get that was just what will happen. It'll be called to the board. That includes grade 3, so you can just really call grade 3 on like turn 2 if you hit it. And then next we have this guy. So when he's run upon by an Apex Warrior Bastion, which by the way this card counts as that as well, you reveal 3 grade 3s and draw a card, which is really nice, and that's basically the main part of those. You don't use their rear guard effects. They're only there for the ride line. Next we have the Accord Bastion himself. So notice that he does have the ability to be the Apex Bastion. If you're wondering what the Apex Bastion is, in case you don't remember, it's actually the original Bastion. He counts as both, so you can actually persona right off of them. This card has a lot of abilities on it. So the other ability says all your grade 3 or greater front row rear guards cannot be chosen by your opponent's card effects, and they get plus 5k power. It is active on your opponent's turn 2. So basically if you have a grade 3 here and a grade 3 here, they are both 18k bases, and it's just really nice. So that's also just pretty cool. Then he has another ability on top of that. It says the other battle that this unit attacked, you can choose a grade 3 or less and restand it. Keep in mind it says grade 3 or less. It could be anything that's a 3 or less, so you can restand a 2, a 1, a 0. And that unit gets the ability, if your opponent's grade 3 or greater, you can counterblast, discard a Bastion's card name, and you can have that unit perform drive checks. So ideally you can swing with something, you swing with him, and then use his ability with the discard, restand him, and this performs drive checks, which is really cool, very useful. And it already has 18k power on it, and then yeah, you also get the twin drive on top of that. So it's very nuts. This card's really cool. I really like it, and the resist is really cool. So just overall just really nice. After that, our regular deck, we got a bunch of 3s to go through. Obviously this is the Accord, the persona for it, so you want a persona ride because persona riding is pretty OP. But in my list specifically, I actually run the 4 of the regular Bastion as well, for a couple of reasons. You can run the Accord here. I just don't want to throw down the 100 to get the Accords. These are like literal cents, so I just chose to grab these instead. But you can put the Accord in the slot. Another reason why I like this card is you can actually persona ride with this card on this, and then you can go back. So into matchups that you don't really care about the resist as much, or you don't really care about the drive checks or whatever, or say you're out of counterblast, you can just hard ride this and then go back into the other one when you're given CP again, and then you can just swap them back and forth. Like I said, either assist card father, or you can use it as an extension of persona. I think it's actually pretty cool. They can kind of keep going back and forth between them. Probably one of the strongest cards that Bastion has recently gone, which is this card. So this card, when revealed, it can be revealed as 2 grade 3s, which is really cool, because then off of the ride line you can just keep revealing this card. And second ability says if you have a very Bastion's card, then this gets 10k power, 10k shield, and that's both active on both your opponent's turns. So basically this and stacks with the Bastion Accord. This is a 28k beater, front row, untouchable card at all times. Your opponent basically can't swing into it if they choose to, so they're forced to give you damage. And if you can play around like that concept pretty well. If your opponent tries to deny you, can call 2 of these in the front row and then tell your opponent no. If they want swing to rear guards, cool, that's 28k just to barely hit over. It's just, that's just how it is. So it's just a really good card. Also in hand, it's shield, and on top of that, it also helps you with the ride line. You will basically not whiff your ride line if you have these in hand. So very good stuff. Next we have the Dark Strain Copycat Girl. Up to you which one you want. You can, I don't remember if Dark Strain got restricted. I think it got unrestricted recently. Like, you're run that or you can run this, whatever you're in the mood for. This one says if you have a Bastion in its card name, you can put this into Soul, give all your grade 3s boost. And then from Soul, you can get her out of Soul basically and give another grade 3 boost for the other turn. Up to you what you want to do with that. You can also run Dark Stream, the one that says Soul Blast 2 and give everything boost. Whatever everyone's comfortable with. I sometimes find it a little weird to have to shove her in, but at the same time, she's so useful. She comes up. So I like her more than the Dark Stream because sometimes I just run out of Soul and then I get stuck. So that's that. The reason why I run out of Soul is because we got the homie here, the homie that just never dies. Alden, literally since the beginning of Bastion's era, this card's been basically a thing. On plays, Counterblast, Soul Blast, call a grade 3, and if you call a card, if you call it a grade 3, then you get to draw 2. And then also when it attacks, it gets 5k power, and you can, you know, restand it, gets another 5k, so this gets very beefy, very fast, especially with the front row, with the Bastion and everything. Persona, whatever else, this guy gets huge. So very good card. You can also have him as a booster if you want, and yeah, just go nuts with him. Keep in mind, you usually want to restand him, but in some situations when you have other cards that you prioritize in the front row, you can keep him as a booster. If you don't care about losing him, then you can just have him as a booster and just call it a day there. I run 2 of the Order card. I actually made a mistake. I originally had 4 and I realized that my trigger lineup was short a little bit, so I had this at 4 and I cut it back to 2. And basically what happened here is that right now this card works really well with Owl, but the issue is we don't have Owl right now, so I think 2 is actually perfectly fine. Once Owl comes out, this would probably go back to 4. We'll probably alter some of the grade 3 lineups will probably change here, but for now this is the Order. This is form up O Chosen Knights. You can Counterblast, Soul Blast, and do all the effects based on how many grade 3s you have on your board. If you have 2 or more, you choose one of your units that gets plus 5k. If you have 3 or more, you draw a card, and then if you have 4 or more, you choose one of your Vanguards that gets a drive. The drive is actually really nuts in this deck, especially right now. The 5k matters, the draw matters a lot too. Basically the whole package of this Order is insane. The downside to this card, of course, is the fact that it's a Counterblast, Soul Blast, and with no character charging in the deck currently, it doesn't really, you sometimes just can't go through them all because Alden also Counterblast 2, and then Bastion himself, the Accord 1 Counterblast, so you can use like 4 Counterblasts a turn, which can be a lot. So that's why with that in mind, you definitely don't want to go super crazy on this card, but it's really good. Worst case scenario, you just use it as discard fodder. You just discard it for ride up if you don't need, because you only resolve like probably 1 a game. I run 3 of the shield card. This is basically the one that lets you just get a bunch of shield on place. When put on guard circle, you can choose a grade 2 or greater, give it 10k, and then if you have a grade 4, you get 20k instead. So with Accord, it's actually really good. Obviously, I'm not running Accord in my list, but you can also run this with Accord in mind for the time being. This will probably turn into the Owl over time. We'll probably be adjusting some stuff here, but for now, this is just because we just need the shield. The downside is the 12k, really brutal. It makes it really hard to catch numbers, especially if you have these in the front, but for whatever reason, because you don't have any other grade 3s, these are 17ks and they're just kind of off. They don't make magic numbers, so just think, keep in mind, definitely just purely for the shield. This is the Garshik girl. She says during the battle, this unit attacked if Persona Road, she gets 5k, and then your opponent has to call 2 or more cards during her battle, and then you can restand her and do it again. So you can basically double Garshik your opponent, especially if you have like 2 of these. You can swing both of them. Garshik. It goes kind of wild, and then if you have the drive checks on top of that, it gets pretty insane. You do want to prioritize how you want to use these. Obviously, since we have the Alden and we have the other guy, the really good card that gets 10k on top of all Accord's effect, you don't always want these in the front row, but they're just really nice to use as it forces cards out of your opponent's hand. So you definitely just want to think when to use these, and they're really nice. Worst case scenario, you just push them back and then they become boosters. So for that, we just have some perfect guards. Nothing too crazy here. Again, you can put the Sanctuary in here. You can choose not to. Completely up to you. Next, we have the OT. This is the triggers now. So I don't know which OT is better to run. Most decks run blue. You definitely shouldn't be running the Keter OT. I don't think it's necessary anymore, especially since you'll just deck yourself out usually. You can run this one. You can run blue. You can run red. It's completely up to you. Actually, I just don't feel like taking my blue OT out of my other decks to put in here. I'm actually perfectly fine with just the vanilla, but the crit is nice. The crit's actually very important in some situations, especially since you can choose where the crit goes. So I think the blue one is probably the best choice in this deck specifically, since you have all these drive checks, bunch of rear guard attacking. You can assign the crit somewhere. You can assign the crit on a rear guard, and that's restanding and also drive checking, and suddenly that's lethal. So I think blue is the best option, but I think red is not too terrible, and I think this one's not bad either, since you can choose 2 units and they just get the 100 million power. Nothing too crazy here, just 4 generic heals. You do need as much heal as possible since this deck runs a ton of grade 3s. For that, we just have 8 crits that are both vanilla, so just more crits. Again, you just want to see as much of those, so you want to hit these triggers pretty ASAP, so you also want them in your hand. I also run draws. This is just like the last spot here. I think fronts are better. The only reason I'm actually running draws is actually because I actually don't have fronts in Keter. Surprisingly enough, I've just never had a deck where I've actually ran fronts, because I was always running either MLB or PBO, and both of them draws are actually pretty nice in there. So I actually don't own the fronts, so because of that, I'm just putting draws in here. So if you're building this deck, you should probably just put the fronts in here, but we're just running the draws. They're also really good 10k shield, and sometimes you want to draw into better pieces or better cards, so you can run the draws as well. But I do think fronts are just the better option in this deck. Like I said, I'm not like a master on this deck or anything like that. I just think it's cool. Got like a really good set of cards that just makes it in like a really good spot, especially with the Owl. Once you get the Owl, I think this deck will be in a really good spot. The downside is we're also getting a bunch of other really good cards that are also also coming out with the Alolan Mine, so this deck will still not be like the best deck to take, but it will be a really good option. I think even now, I don't know, this video is probably going to release after the results. Right now as I'm recording this, the results for this this last weekend haven't come out yet. And that's basically, I think, like Europe has some events happening. I think Spain is doing something. Anyway, long story short, there's some events happening this weekend. There's actually a shot that there might be a Bastion player that'll top. So yeah, that's basically Bastion. I hope you guys like that. I know I'm not usually, I don't think I've ever talked about deck building Bastion outside from like the last week or so. But like I said, I actually legitimately enjoy the deck. I think it's cool. So that's why I got it. And again, into Gandiva and like those really tough matchups, I feel the tough matchups that board wipe you all the time. I feel like Bastion stands up against those. So if your video ever comes back in meta, that means this comes back in meta. If Gandiva stays in meta, then this also will stay in meta with it because this plays around it so easily. I really like the concept of how easy it is to tech with this guy, and I hope as more cards comes out, since it restands grade 2s or less, maybe it would be even easier to run like good grade 1s and stuff like that. We'll see. On that, guys, that's it for this video. 50cards.shop, code orange for any of your goodies or anything else that you may need. Let me know below what you're currently playing in set 12 or set 11 or set 13. You know, if you're in Japan, whatever it is you're playing, let me know below. On that, guys, peace out. That's vidania. I'll see you guys in a future video. Bye.